Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here and welcome back. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about where I think a local bottom for Bitcoin is going to be. I do think that the vast majority of this current movement is over. And while we cannot speculate on the exact level that the bottom will be, I do think that it's close. Today, I'm going to share with you why Bitcoin is likely about to have a bottom and is probably going to springboard back up to the 50 weekly simple moving average, where all will be told. Are we going into a super cycle? Are we going into a bear market? At that point in time, somewhere in January, February, we're really going to know. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. I believe, I'll just go ahead and put my cards on the table here. I believe that Bitcoin is going to find a local bottom somewhere above 75, and I'm going to give you 4 strong reasons why. First and foremost, we were able to predict the drop down to $75,000 in February because of the visible range volume profile. The VRVP, visible range volume profile, has this massive tranche of no trading volume right here. Bitcoin does not like these gaps. It does not like this zone here where there's been no trading. Bitcoin says, you know what? We've never really traded here. I'd like to trade here sometime. And so it is very likely that this is going to fill. This was the exact same reason that we came back down and filled here, because Bitcoin only spent a couple of days here and we set up a gargantuan fair value gap between about $75,000 and about $85,000, which is exactly precisely why you saw this major drop down into $75,000 in March of this year. We're doing the exact same thing right now. We have dropped all the way down to $80,000, so our current range for the local bottom, based on the fact that $80,000 is already hit, so can't be above that, is between about $75,000 and $80,000 because of what we see right there. Now, 2 more reasons, actually I have 5 reasons for you, not 4. 2 more reasons why I believe that you are going to see a bottom there is because $75,000 was a previous all-time high. It was a previous bull market all-time high touch, and with that being a major level of support, considering it was an underside overside test that sent us up to 126, it's most likely going to end up holding, at least in the short term. We'll talk about whether or not it holds in the long term in a minute, but at least in the short term, it's probably going to hold. Another reason is because we have a lot of technical analysis that is coming true based off of the previous cycle. As you can see, this uptrend actually ended up being perfect for Bitcoin, and it gave us a perfect prediction of $126,000 as our current cycle top. Well, there's another price target, and it comes off of these highs. As you can see, this was a major inverse head and shoulders pattern, which, by the way, was beautiful, because if you see the extrapolation, it literally pointed to exactly 126,000. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Called the exact top at 126. And so this inverse head and shoulders pattern neckline very well may end up being the support architecture as well, and it currently sits at 77,000, right in the middle of that zone between 75 and 80. Okay, so those are the 3 reasons so far. We have the tranche in the visible range volume profile, we have the previous all-time high at 75, and then we also have this uptrend. Another reason, we have had a great deal of word from insiders that there is a massive amount of bid going on between $50,000 and $75,000. And the vast majority of that bid starts at $75,000. In other words, whales, exchanges, institutions are lined up to the tune of billions, if not tens of billions of dollars worth of buy orders at $75,000. The reason for this is because many large players expect Bitcoin to go to $250,000 to $300,000 next cycle. And so if they can buy in at $75,000 on 2x leverage at $75K and it goes to $300, I mean, just think about it. If we have, these are some of our predictions from the stream today, if we see Bitcoin go from $75,000 up to $300K, that's a 300% movement. A lot of people are going to be putting that on 2x leverage. That's a 6x in just a few years. That's like a 100% year-over-year continual average growth rate if you pull that off. And so a lot of players are wanting to buy at 75,000. And that's why on the hourly chart, when we drop down here towards 80, you actually saw a lot of volume come in. Ton of volume came in on Bitcoin over the last couple of days on Thursday and Friday when we dropped down to 80, because that's the beginning. That's the beginning of that zone that we've been telling you about. We've been telling you about this zone of buy order since we were up here, since right here. We've been telling you the zone starts at 80. And so far, it's exactly what we're seeing. And so we see this little bounce. Now, here's the thing. We are currently hitting our head on the 0.786 Fibonacci retracement when you look at the overall market trend. Right? When you look at this overall movement here, the 0.786 sits at 85,000. We are currently hitting our head and rejecting off of it. And if Bitcoin does not manage to get something a little bit more bullish than this, because frankly, this is a dead cat bounce so far, then Bitcoin's probably going to fall. But where? Probably deeper into that zone that we're talking about, down towards $75,000 to $80,000. Now, another reason, so that's the 4th reason why I think that The bottom is going to be short-term sometime between $75,000 and $80,000. A fifth reason, I think, the next reason, we'll just call it the next reason. The next reason is because someone has seemingly been forced selling Bitcoin. Just about every single New York Open, you've seen Bitcoin dump by a couple $1,000s because it seems like somebody went bankrupt. I don't know who. I'm trying to ask around and figure it out, but I can't find them. Seems like somebody with at least a few $1 billion went bankrupt over here. So they are forced selling in a calculated way, probably by a certain deadline, and they seem to be doing it at the New York Open almost every single weekday. And so Bitcoin dumps on the New York Open, which is at 9:30 Eastern. And so they are running out of steam. They probably sold most of their position. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to continue winding down a trade down at 85. They're probably getting closer to their deadline. And something you have to keep in mind is that the massive amount of institutional buy orders down here between 50 and 80 is probably significantly larger, probably 50 times larger than whoever has been triggering a lot of this selling. They are getting exhausted and the buyers are just getting started. And so when you see that price equilibrium be met, that's when you find the bottom. And so that is one of the major reasons why I think the bottom is going to be between 75 and 80,000 is because of that as well. Now, let's go over another reason. Another reason why I think the bottom is going to be here is because Bitcoin has traditionally found a very obvious technical support at the beginning of a bear market. For example, in the beginning of the last bear market, you drew a trend line from this cycle top in 2017 right here through these bottoms, and this was the bottom of the first leg of the downtrend in the bear market. In this case, this was a 51% bear market dip. In our case over here, you draw a very similar trend line, right? From the cycle top of the previous cycle through major market structure, and then you find that bottom right there. We are repeating history over and over and over again. Bitcoin has always been cyclical. We were leaning in the direction the 4-year halving cycle is broken, and it might be. We might have a shortened bear market. And of course, if 2025 is bearish, that would technically break the 4-year halving cycle in one sense. But in general, that points at this being the bottom. That points at this being the bottom of the beginning of the bear market. So what happens from there? If Bitcoin does bottom and it's in this part of the cycle right here, which makes sense because we're about a month post predicted cycle top timing, then what do we see happen? What we should expect to see happen sometime soon is a bottom between $75,000 and $80,000 back up to the 50 weekly simple moving average. And if we see a rally up to the 50 weekly simple moving average, then that would mean that the next leg of the market is going to look something a little bit like this. You're going to see the 50 fall over pretty aggressively because we're very far below it. And then over the course of the next couple of months, Bitcoin's probably going to just kind of tread water and be really boring as it rallies up here towards the 50. Now, we might hit the 50 at 94. We might hit the 50 at 100, although that's highly unlikely. But what will probably end up happening is that Bitcoin will most likely rally to about the 0.382 on the Fibonacci here, probably around 97, reject off of it, and then go into a bear market. Or we could break through it and confirm the super cycle. But at this point in time, when we find our bottom and then we go up here and test the 50, if we break the 50, then that would be a change of character. We didn't break the 50 in the last cycle. If we do break the 50, then that's where super cycle happens. If we reject off of the 50, that's where we are 100% confirming that Bitcoin is going down towards $50,000 to $60,000 as a bear market low. And so that's what I think is going to happen. I think that the first leg of this cycle, this bear market cycle, is almost done. The first leg over here was a $36,000 drop, 52% movement. Over here, we saw that this was a 38%. If we go down to 78,000, a 38% movement. If we drop down towards 75,000, it's a 40% movement, negative $51,000. So that's where I think the bottom is. I think the bottom is very close. I don't think that we're close enough to the bottom where it makes sense to go like 10x, 20x leverage on the bottom. But in general, this does present an excellent buying opportunity, which is why I have been accumulating Bitcoin aggressively below $85,000, because most likely Bitcoin is going to end up being at a discount right now compared to future value. And this makes a lot of sense because if you look at the RSI, the weekly chart RSI is the lowest that has been in an extremely long time. You can see that weekly chart RSI right here is, go ahead and get a full-blown horizontal line. Weekly chart RSI is one of the lowest that it has been since the bottom of the bear market. Not the top of the bear market, not right here. Notice, like, right, not right here, but over here. Like that, it's very, 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 very low RSI. If you look at the daily chart, it is hands down the lowest RSI that Bitcoin has seen since August of 2023. This is in the range of a bottom. It's most likely in the range of a bottom. So at some point, you see the institutional buying pressure outpacing this institutional selling pressure, because this is probably one entity. Down here, you have hundreds of entities. This is probably a few $1 billion worth of selling. Retail's panicking and following them, so you got really just a few $1 billion worth of selling, causing all of this, and liquidations, moving it further. But then all the big players are buying down here. That's what we kind of came into the understanding of a couple of weeks ago, is that all the big players are buying between 60 and 75. So huge amount of bid, huge amount of support, and it makes a lot of sense because we follow the visible range volume profile, right? Visible range volume profile, where's all that support? It's right there between 50 and 75. It really is just, this is very basic technical analysis matching up with the real world information that we have. Boots on the ground. The bottom is most likely between $75,000 and $80,000 in the short term. If that didn't hold in the short term, that would be deeply concerning because that would be a huge break of market structure and a huge break of our fundamental understanding. That would be very, 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 very strange, which is why I'm pretty confident in saying that the short-term bottom is most likely going to be above like 70 to 75. Worst case scenario, like 70. It's probably going to be somewhere between 75 and 80. And so that's where I think the bottom is. Should you be going long there? That's a personal decision. But what I will say is that what I am doing is I'm kind of waiting for more of a trend confirmation before we go into trades. Shorting right now is dangerous because we're down $40,000 from the all-time high. Longing is dangerous because we don't have a confirmed break to the upside. But what I am doing is I'm acquiring Bitcoin hand over foot. And I'm preparing for a market direction shift because if Bitcoin does get a shift, I will be going long back up towards the 50. I will be taking some long trades, and I would love for you to join me on those, which is why, if you have not already, you should sign up for Femex, who is turning 6 years old. Femex is about to turn, or is turning 6 years old. Very excited about that. 6th birthday for Femex. Really appreciate all of you guys that have signed up, and I highly encourage you to do so. Femex is a phenomenal cryptocurrency exchange, and as we start to see some of these long entries, and if we reject off of the 50 weekly some short entries presenting themselves, then Femex is a phenomenal place to be doing a lot of that trading. And one of the reasons that you should sign up for Femex is because when you do, I'm going to be giving you access to our miniature trading course when it comes out. We are almost done with it. We're getting very close to completion. And we're going to be giving it to you for free. All you have to do is sign up for Femex and deposit $100, get trading over there, and start taking advantage of some of the opportunities here in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space. So big shout out to Femex. Really appreciate them for helping to make this video possible. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, stay tuned for more content, and you tell me, where do you think the local bottom is? Where do you think that we're going to have a small reversal? Do you think that the super cycle is going to happen? Do you think the bear market is going to happen? It's a little bit too early to tell which one's going to happen, but we do know that, one of them is going to happen. So we want to be prepared for both scenarios. In either event, an entry at 85,000 on the investment side of things, in my opinion, is a phenomenal entry. And I'm saying that because I am entering there at 80 and 85,000. I have been. I'm looking forward to getting some entries at 75 if it presents itself. So I highly encourage you, if you guys have not already, to stay tuned, follow the channel for more content. Really appreciate all of you for being here. And before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.